Morning, boys and girls. Hello, everyone. No one, because no one's here. That's okay, because no one knew I was doing this. It's a surprise. Coffee. A bit later than my normal start on a Wednesday. I figure most people are asleep by now, which is okay. Most of the people that view the streams anyway. But I felt like there was some unfinished business from yesterday. My stream died at about the 3.5 hour mark. I don't know why. We had problems with the internet here, I think. And no one got to see whether the rig worked or not, whether I fixed the problem. And of course, I've made some progress since my stream yesterday. And I wanted to share it all with you. I thought of doing this as a video, but then I thought it might be more interesting to do it as a live stream. But it could be an epic fail where the live stream is just me. Oh! And some people are popping in. Wow. Hey Daniel. Hey Death Shaker. Dave Darko. Jonathan. Ezzy. So, yes, okay, at least I won't be talking to myself the whole time. I feel better now. 20 minutes. Hey Paul. 20 minutes and then Daniel has to be at work. This is going to be a quick stream today. When I say quick, I'd like it to be an hour or less. But, yeah, as I was saying, I did a bit of an intro dialogue, but there was no one online. Hey Leo. It's just an impromptu stream. I felt bad that the stream died yesterday and no one got to see whether I fixed the issue or not. And then I've made some progress and I wanted to share it. Hey Florian. So I thought I would do another stream rather than try to do it as a video. Because if I did it as a video, it probably wouldn't come out for another week or two. And if I do it as a stream, I can do it now. I do it this morning. So that's my finished board. No, not really. So I might have made some progress. Ready? Da, da, da. Hey Andy Mouse. And this is what the programming jig looks like now. Or I should zoom out just a fraction. Oops, wrong way. Just a fraction. This is what I have right now. Hello, Roger. Welcome back. To all of you who were here yesterday, welcome back. Station 240. Hello. Was that you? Hey, Station 240. Thank you. Wicked. Okay. I'll be sending that out today. Well, no, it's probably going to get picked up tomorrow. We'll see. I don't know. I got the order in late. I was at the MicroPython meeting yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to fulfill it and send it yesterday. Sorry. Or fulfill it yesterday to send it today. Anyway, look at this, everyone. We have a laser cut acrylic base. And I did standoffs from the base, so there's no chance... Hey, Alan! There's no chance of any of the bottom stuff hitting the ground or scratching or anything. And I also wanted to give it some room for some air. And then I found these things in my garage from, I don't know, I probably bought them about 20 years ago. You know, little feet you stick on the bottom of chairs to stop them from scraping the wood. So that allowed me to... Because I was trying to find a solution where I could have these screw heads countersunk, but you can't really do that with laser cutting. I would have had to do 2 pieces of acrylic and glue them together. So anyway, I just got some feet. It's just nice. So it's nice and smooth. And then on the top, well, this is interesting. I was speaking with Ben about this. Ben, I think, is fast asleep right now. He doesn't know I'm streaming. So there's 2 layers of... I'm not going to pull this apart and put it back together. It's quite fiddly to put together. But there's 2 layers of acrylic, 3mm acrylic, and they've got different cutouts on them. So, and when I designed them, they were going to sit flush at the bottom, but then I decided not to make them sit flush on the board. So you can see there's a gap. So that took care of things like all the resistors and stuff, and didn't have to cut around anything that was poking up. So the bottom one cuts around obviously the screen, cuts around the button, cuts around the LED as like a wider cutout. I did a cutout for the pins here, but it turns out that they weren't needed because of the raised level. And then, so yeah, there's 2 layers, and what that does, the reason I did 2 was it really protects the pogo pins. If you look here, I've got the pogo pins mechanically connected to the board, and then we've got these ones here that are protecting their movement, and the holes that the pogos are sitting in are just the size of the heads. So there's a lot of mechanical stability here. I mean, that they wobble a little bit, but you can't break them off. Hey Paul, well, it's not a saga, it's solved. The Patron with the pogo pins, couldn't be sure you... I did see your post come through. I did. I'll have to reread it though, because I had a question, but I didn't get a chance to reply. I think I hearted your response, but I didn't have a chance to reply. Yeah, yesterday was hectic. So, yeah, I put it all together, and of course I got the cutout for the buttons, and it's pretty good. Now the hey Chris, thank you. It's so it works really well. The only thing is, I made these cams. They're terrible. They're fine for me, right? But there's no way this will hold up on a production line at all. So this is going to need a bit of a rethink and rearrange in terms of the casing and how I'm going to clamp the board. But a few interesting things came up. Speaking to some people yesterday, and then obviously at the MicroPython meeting last night, where I showcased this, I had a lot of people coming up quite interested in it, and quite a few people that have obviously done production before and haven't necessarily built their own test rigs, but have worked with other people building test rigs. And they pointed out quite a few interesting things. Well, a few people have pointed out some interesting things. But what I'll do before I do that is I'll show you this coming in. So here's my tiny Pico board, right? What I might do is just stick let's put a cable in it. The cable's not plugged into anything right now. I will power this up and show you in a moment. Hey Rob, twice in 1 week, yes. I wanted to showcase. We got cut off yesterday, and no one got to see this working. And then I made a case. So it just sits on the pogos. You push it down, and you just rotate the cams, and it holds it in place quite nicely. So that works, but it's not stable enough. I mean, that'll break after 10 boards. You know, it needs to be something that's quite robust. But anyway, that's how it sits in. What I should do is let me just plug it all in. I'll show you it working, and then I'll talk to you all about some changes I am going to make and some possible changes I can make, if that makes sense. So it's just going to boot up. How if I plug the USB cable in the right way? Now, right now, I actually have the code in as a cron tab. It should actually load this Python code when the Pi boots, but for some reason it's not. I'm not sure why. So I'm going to have to look into that. So there's really nothing to see on the screen, so I'm not going to share my desktop. It's just the usual me SSHing into the Pi and then running the code directly from the Pi. Then everything else happens from here. So I'm just getting into the Pi now. I'm about to run the code. Actually, let me just close everything I've got here. Okay, I'm running the code now. Python. Oh, try again. Python doit.py. So you'll see it boot up. There it goes. So it's doing the mechanical test. It's doing all the power tests, and then now hopefully this will work. Everyone, cross your fingers. Yeah, I thought I ran it as like a sudo, like as a, yeah, but maybe not. I've tried a couple of ways of doing it. The easiest way would be if I was running like a desktop environment, because I could stick it in startup, but I'm not running a desktop environment, so I'll have to do some more. Unexpected stream, yes Michael. So push button, search, found, fingers crossed this works. That's not looking good. This is all working yesterday. We got an error. Flash ID, so when it was... Okay, well... Awesome. Dexterous Industries, how to... There's a link. Paul posted a link. A new window. Don't know where that window went. Okay, don't know why that didn't open. Oh, there it goes. Didn't work last time. Dexterous Industries, how to run a program on a Raspberry Pi at startup. Yeah, I've seen this document. I'm just switching. Yeah, I know there are loads of ways. So I tried the RC local, that didn't work. I've tried the cron tab, didn't work. I haven't done system D. Yeah. The RC local was my first choice, but that didn't work. I'm not sure why. And in my case, I don't want to run it in the background. Or it's got to be running, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'll look into that more. Thank you. It's least of my worries right now. Right now, I seem to have some stability issues with this. Let's start this again. Let's try this again. And this has to be obviously super stable, and right now it's super not stable. Yeah. So right now it's supposed to be resetting the Tiny Pico. But it's not. And it's erroring out. It's timing out and erroring out. Wow, isn't that nuts? Okay. Wow. This was working all day yesterday. It was working, yeah. Give it that reset. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, anyway. This is not going to be a coding problem solving stream this morning. This is going to be a... I keep doing // instead of a hash for my comments. Let's try that again. Push button. Yeah, I've got output. Like I can see on my screen what's happening. In this case, it's just nothing. It's just timing out when it's trying to run ESP tool on it. Got my desktop. It's just timing out with the flash IDs returning non-zero exit status 2. It's just getting stuck on this, and I'm not quite sure why. Because let's see if I can run this from the command line. So if I run it from here, right, so it's probably getting stuck on the connecting. Right, so it's not connecting to the Tiny Pico. Why is it not connecting to the Pico? That's a good question. I've got to remember what state I left it in last night. I was mucking around with it at the MicroPython meeting. You can definitely... Okay, let me just make sure that... Was it LS-USB? CP2104? So it's finding it. Let's try to do that without the... Let me just go to mixed desktop cam. Let's try to just do it on the Pico without it plugged into the Pi. Nope. Okay. So let's just state bricked. Nah, it shouldn't be bricked. I just wonder if I've got some funky firmware on there that's causing it to sit there in a reboot state. Might be. I was mucking around with some firmware last night. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, let me unplug it from this USB. Try a different one. No, it's not. It's currently off the board. This has nothing to do with the board. This is... Hey, Simon. This is plugged in directly to the USB. So... This, right now what I'm doing should have nothing to do with the Pi. I'm just doing it via the Pi. Yeah, this is not connecting. Where are my tweezers? Let's reset the board. Okay, and let's... Yeah, that's really weird. It won't connect to the board. What have I done? Maybe I wrecked my board. It's possible. No, it's not in low power mode. There should just be empty firm. There should just be like a straight. I should be able to just R shell to this, and there should be empty. It should just be empty, but it's just not connecting to it. Ah. Wow. I just want to make sure that. See what USB it's on. So still USB 0. Wonder if I just need to reboot the Pi. Maybe the Pi's having trouble talking to it. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. So if I try R shelling to it, can everyone see? Let me just move this. Maybe I'll move that up so everyone can see the full line. If I just try R shelling to it. Dev TTY USB 0. That's really all I should need to do. See, I've now I'm R shelled on it. So REPL. I'm on a REPL on the board right now. So that's me talking to the. I can go. Oops. Print hello. Hello. So that's I'm talking to. Sorry, Daniel. Catch you later. Thanks. Yeah, so the board's working. Like I'm that's me on a REPL on it right now. So the Pi's not wanting to talk to it, and maybe when I did something when I booted it up. What I might do then is let's get out of this. Control C. I might just sudo shut down now. Bye. Pi's going down. I'm just going to reboot it because that's kind of weird. What is the expected normal state on the board? Well, in this case, if it's a brand new board, there'll be nothing on there. It'll be a completely empty Pico. In this case, I mean, I've flashed this 100 times, and I've put busted firmware on there. I've had Arduino code on here. I've had right now there's just got empty firmware. So I should be able to power cycle this now. I need to get a switch. USB switch. Okay, so I've power cycled this. Let me just go back to the big screen. So this is booting now. I won't plug the Pico in yet. This is not what I expected to do on the stream today. Okay. Desktop cam. Let's connect to the Pi. So does having the firmware you have on it stop? No. ESP tool should override anything. It's not connecting to it for some reason. But that could be something to do with the maybe didn't like because I plugged the USB. I plugged it in while the Pi was booting. Maybe that was a problem. By the way, there is a reset pin on the Pi. You can. Where's the reset pin on the Pi? I don't know. I can get to it. If there is, I probably obscured it. So I don't know. Okay, I'll have to look at that. Sudo reboot, then you don't have to power cycle and switch. Oh, hello BearGun42. Thank you. That's a good idea. CD Tiny Pico. Let's just do a flash ID on it. Let's see if it connects this time. No, it's not connecting. That's very bizarre. It's like there's something wrong with my USB ports. Let's try a different port. So ESP tool won't talk to it. but I can talk to it. Like I should even be able to do a screen. Is it negative port / dev / TTY USB? Ooh, no completion. Hang on. Dev / TTYU. Oh, okay. Don't know why there was no completion then. Screen native port / dev / TTY USB 0 52. Where was it? 115200. What? Oh, I don't have screen installed. That's annoying. Get rid of the Pi. Get rid of the Pi for debugging. Hey Christos. Hey Tim. No, hey Gaming with Kendrick. No, it's just in this case. No, it's the same setup I've always been using. Serial port config. Nothing's. Hey Adam. Try to flash it not from the Pi. Well, I can REPL to it from the Pi. That's. I mean, I can R shell to it. So it seems to be something with ESP tool. So as I said, like if I do I have R shell here, I'm not going to retype it. Like I can connect to it via R shell. So is it Pi board? Can't remember how to do an ls on the board. There you go. See, I'm talking to the board right now. That's boot.py that's on the actual Tiny Pico. So the serial port's working, the USB port's working, and I can connect to it. Dial speeder connects over. Yeah, it looks like it's working. I'll catch it. City Paul. That still doesn't mean everything is... No, but this was working yesterday all day. And I've never had a problem talking to the Pi with ESP tool from this setup at all. And it's the same USB cable I was using yesterday. ESP tool will set the board into, or once it connects to it, it handles all of that. It puts it into whatever mode it needs. And what else did I miss? Weird. I mean, I can plug it into my computer and do an ESP tool on it, but it's going to be exactly the same result. As in, sorry, that's not what I meant. Let's bring up the terminal. Oh, what have I got in history? Oh, it's just the Pi stuff. Just going to copy so I don't have to retype it. So ESP tool. Alright, that's not going to give me TTY USB 0, unfortunately, on the Mac. TTY.SL slab. Interesting. Not finding it. ls/dev/tty.s. Okay, not finding my Tiny Pico right now. CUSL? What? What's CUSL? Fancy laser cut case. Yeah, that's what I was showcasing. I wasn't planning on doing any of this rubbish this morning. Why is it not picking up my... Oh, maybe because I was R-shelled to it when I pulled it out. Maybe? No, that shouldn't be it. Hey, Cheetah Kid. I don't know. Why is it not even appearing? Yeah, maybe I've done something to the board. No, that can't be. Yeah, I'll do an LS-USB in a second. I'll also, oh, there's no LS-USB on a Mac. I'm on a Mac right now. Bet you the Arduino. Hey, Mike. I don't have another board I can plug into my Pi, but because this one's got header pins on it. Whoops, did not mean to load that up. What am I doing? There's no LS-USB on a Mac. Right, that's not picking up my serial port either. I wonder if this is... No, it didn't like me just plugging it in that way. Try a different port. Right, on that port it's working. So let me just unplug that. So maybe it didn't like me. I don't know why it didn't work on that port. USB sucks, by the way. Right, it's picking it up now. So if I go back and do a slab. Oh, really? Why is it my ESP stuff set in my path? Okay. I still haven't fully set up this whole computer. SPIDF. Is it in tools? I think it's in tools. Is ESP tool in here? Where's ESP tool live again? Not in tools. Anyone know what is also not default on Mac OS? What's not default? Install Homebrew. Yeah, I think I've got Homebrew. I might have Homebrew installed on here, but I should have all this installed. It seems like maybe I don't have, no, what is it, bash, what's the bash script, start script called again? It's not that, no. Bash dot something, damn, can't remember. Yeah, I can install it, I know I can install LS-USB. I'm just saying, yeah, it doesn't come by default. Can't you find something on the Mac? Yeah, I can. I just, I'll do that now, but yes, esptool.py. I'm finding now. Bash RC, thank you. I couldn't remember what it was. Was it? And no. Dot bash RC. See, I don't have any of the paths in here for some reason. Maybe that stuff didn't copy over. Okay, ESP tool. Documents Arduino hardware expressive. Really? I don't want to use that. Okay, well I can. Just for now. /dev, whoops, dev tgy dot. By the way, I'm not a terminal guy. I've only been really playing around with the, oh no slash on the bash. Okay, I'll check that in a second. Flash ID. Okay, what did I miss? Oh, do I have to do a negative P? I might have to do a negative P. Right, connecting. Right, so this is not connecting to the board either. ESP tool. Typical C# guy. No, I'm just I'm a user interface guy, not a command line. I've only recently started playing, or having to get used to the command line, because a lot of the stuff I'm doing now with MicroPython and IDF is all command line. Yeah, see, that's not connecting to the board through ESP tool, which is weird. So if I can't connect, I can't do anything with it. That's really bizarre. Which means I can't do an erase flash on it, because it won't connect. I've never seen this before. I'm in my home folder, yeah. Just one that's gonna go bash rc dot bash rc. Yeah, no, there's definitely nothing. To learn how to reset issues, put in the bootloader mode manually. I can't put in the bootloader mode manually. There are no switches on the board. There are no buttons on the board. I've never experienced this issue. Let me just see if I can do it on my other one. The other one's just running some Arduino code right now. Short what? I don't have access to pin 0. Well, maybe a little bit. Not really. Ooh, that's not liking that. Why isn't that booting? Right, so it's connecting to this board. So that's fine. So that does a flash ID. But this one is no longer doing a flash ID, but I can connect to it. I wonder if I put some nasty firmware on it yesterday. I might have done something, but if I can't erase it, I don't know what I'm going to do. Oh, and now it worked. I did a flash ID. Let me just do an erase while I'm at it. Erase flash. Let's just get rid of anything that's on there right now. And then we'll start again. I said I was hacking firmware last night on this because it doesn't have my RAM on it right now, which means I couldn't use the firmware I was normally using. Okay, I'm just going to unplug that from here, and I'm going to plug it back into the Pi. Let's have a look and see if that was the issue. The perils of mucking around at a MicroPython meeting, hey? Okay, let's try this again. So, I'm back at here. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to do a flash ID on it from the Pi this time. Connecting, and it works. Okay. Yeah, I had some nasty firmware on there. My bad. There you go. So, let's try this again. I'm going to go back to full screen. Show us the Pi. There's the Pi! Hey, Adam. So, here we go. Oh, I'm going to run the code first. I'm going to go, oh. I'm going to go Python. Do it. I've got plans to reconfigure the way the code all works right now. Had some interesting suggestions last night. Okay, it says load board, right? So when I put the board on, right, it does its power test straight away. Right, it does its shorts test and then its power test, and it's all good. So the green light goes on. Press button. Oh, press button. I've got a delay in a loop somewhere which is affecting the button press. There we go. Checking chip. Erasing. Success. Flashing. Dun, 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 dun. Told you it was working. Flashing success, and then it does it checks one pin, and then it does the end still. So none of that code's changed, and then my code is basically stops working. So that's all working. Yay. Okay. So I should have blanked the board out last night when I left. Okay, that's good. So back to what I wanted to talk about. So there's some pretty serious problems with the way this is all working right now. It's perfectly fine for me, but I can't do this. I can't give this to a production line. But why is it working? But why is what working? Rhubarb and strawberry pie. Yum. That sounds really yum. I could do that. Yum. Or apple and blackberry. Apple and strawberry. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm hungry. Thanks, Adam. Exactly, station 240. That's one of the issues. So, right now it's possible. I'm just going to take this off. Right now it's technically possible for someone to place this with the pins not aligned. You need 1 megabyte to speed up everything. It's running at 1 megabyte. It's running at 92. What is it? 92. Blah 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 blah. What's this speed? I can't remember. Well, it's not going to say there. It's running at the fastest speed it can go right now. Unfortunately. I can't. What's that value? 90 something something something. So I need to solve the place it too far this way or place it too far this way. That's one thing I need to solve. Obviously I need to solve this. This is not going to work, right? This will not stand the test of time. It'll fall apart. I'm going to need something that... So the board doesn't need a lot of pressure, but I need something that can clamp it down that's foolproof. And so what I'm thinking is to do something that that's all in one. So for instance, I don't know how yet. There was a few suggestions thrown around last night, but I'm not sure how I could mechanically build it because it's a mechanical problem. But so maybe one of the things that happens is, as part of the plugging the USB in, maybe the USB is connected to a holder, and they slide the board into a holder, which connects to the USB, and then the holder only fits one way on the board. Replaceable pogo pins isn't necessarily a problem right now. Pogo pins should last long enough to do hundreds of boards, and I'll be, depending on how many boards they're making, I'll be supplying multiple of these. I'm not too much worried about the replaceable pogos, and as I think I mentioned yesterday on the stream, I've got the replaceable holders. I've got the holders coming from Ellie, and so what I can do is I can put the holders in here, and then I can swap pogos if I need to. The problem with that is it completely changes the height of the pogos. The issue you were having might be relevant for this later. Okay, I'll have a look at that afterwards. Like what Station said, just make a cutout in the form of the tiny pico. So I can't make a cutout in the form of the tiny pico. Just hear me out for a second. Because then there's no way of doing the pogo pins. Kind of. Right, so the only way I could do it... So I'd have to obviously make the... whatever the top is, the acrylic or whatever, much taller, right? And it's going to have to be much more space, which means obviously my screen's in the wrong spot. I need a complete board redesign to be able to do that, to push everything apart further, to be able to make a cutout. But the problem is if I make a cutout, I've got no way of holding the board down because the board's going to be recessed, because the cutout has to be high enough that it locks the board in before you drop the pins, before you drop it. Okay, does that make sense? There's no point... Like, if someone has to sit there and go like this on the pins, it's not going to work. It needs something that will guide them in. It's already locked into place before they hit the pins. And to do that, my cutout has to be really high. And if my cutout's really high, I've got no surface area to push the pico down. I can't make something that's as small as my finger to mechanically hold the pico in place. That's too much pressure on the ICs. There's too much pressure on the board, right? That's a bad idea. What that'll do is they'll end up breaking half the boards by doing that. Okay, because the people that are going to be testing this are not going to be taking care. You need to assume that it's the janitor that's going to be testing it. They're going to have no understanding of electro anything, no understanding of mechanical stability, and they're going to break them. No, just another layer of acrylic and make them hold it down. I can't ask someone to hold it down in place. Has to be a hands-off test. It's, again, not something that I can... Okay, let me phrase that. I can do that. It's what I'm going to get is problems on the production line. It's there's a lot of documentation out there on good and bad practices for test jigs. So the rule is as few steps as possible and a yes or no answer on the end. If someone has to hold it still and their ability to hold it still during the test can affect the test, that's a massive fail point. Right? If they have to retest it twice because they think they moved their finger or they took pressure away or someone distracted them or something else, that's a bad result. It's got to be really, really straightforward. Now, obviously, if the campaign only does 100 boards, well, maybe this is a moot point, right? But if the campaign does more than 100 boards and the production line that they're using, their intent is, like, let's say it's 1,000 boards, right? And let's say the production house can make 1,000 boards an hour. Then their requirement is that they can test 1,000 boards in an hour. That's their requirement. They want to test them on the line. They don't want to make the line, finish the production, and still be testing them and realize there's a problem and have to go reset the line again. Okay? So they have to be testing it as it's going. And as it is, the test is already a long test. So, you know, one of the ways to get around that is to use a production facility that can't do 1,000 an hour and slow them down. If I slow them down, my cost is going to go up, right? If they have to put 10 testers on and I have to give them 10 of these, so they could be simultaneously testing 10 at a time, then my cost dramatically goes up, right? Use the screw holes of the Tiny Pico to locate the board. What screw holes of the Tiny Pico? Sorry? I'm not sure what you mean, Paul. There's nothing on the board to guide it. So yeah, I've already thought about how I'd do a. So there's another way that I was thinking would be to just have the guide on this side, and the guide would sit around. Like, I'd have to be very specific to the USB cables. I have to provide the cables, and I'd have to provide a bunch of cables for wear and tear, but where the cutout went around the USB, so it locked in this corner. And so when you place it down, this corner guides it in place, not the whole board. The problem with that is it's not as mechanically stable, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's plenty of things I can do that are easier for me to solve, but not as good on the production line. I don't know if I want to do that for my first production. Yeah, no screw holes on this board. It would have been nice if I had room to fit a screw hole, at least one, but there's no room for a screw hole at all, unfortunately. So, and then there's another thing that has been suggested a couple of times to me, and it's probably not a bad idea. Now, obviously, there's this long cable. It won't be this long. I want to use a short cable that's a bit short. I need to find one that's about 5 centimeters longer than this. But the whole idea of having a cable that comes from the Pi to the Tiny Pico, even if it went like through here underneath, the problem with that is cables in the way, things getting caught on it, people pulling it, knocking it, whatever. And I'm relying on the Pi to power this, and I've got no power protection. So something that's been suggested, and I don't mind it, but it means a complete, not just a board revision, which I might have to do anyway to make more space, but put a USB port, but it's not one. I need two USB ports on the board. It doesn't fix the position of the Pico though. I don't know how it would do that. But anyway, so the idea is that USB comes out here and goes directly onto my board. My board breaks out, obviously, it's got ground and power, D plus, D minus, that let's say goes to a port, doesn't matter where they are, but goes to a USB A port on this side. And then the USB A port comes out here into the Pico. So what I'm doing is I'm intercepting, so there's only power going from my board, not from the Pi, which in itself does nothing. But what it allows me to do is stick a MOSFET on the power line and be able to turn the power on and off. So what I could do, for instance, is I could control when the board gets powered in the process. Like right now, the second you plug the power into the board's being powered. Right, the second you place this down, it does its mechanical test. There's no way for me to cut the power off if there's a short or something. But if I was controlling the power to the tiny Pico from the board via a MOSFET, then I could. I could let the Pi, I could let my code control when the power gets turned on, when the power gets turned off. Which sounds like quite a compelling thing to do, but it's a complete redo of the board, and it's a redo of the board when Chinese New Year's happening. So I wouldn't even be able to get the boards made for another 3.5 weeks, and then a week to get the boards made and sent to me. That's 4.5 weeks, assuming that it even worked, then rewrite my code and everything else. It really pushes my time frame of solving this. Put a heatsink on the Pico chip. Put a heatsink on the Pico chip. What's that got to do with anything? Hey, Oreo. Cool name. I've actually bought heatsinks for the Pico. I've got a bag of them. Excuse me, I bought 50 or 100. I'm thinking of supplying a, hey Ben. I'm thinking of supplying a heatsink with the tiny Pico, but that has nothing to do with the testing. While you do that, put a USB chip on there, and you can use the Pi 0 again. Yeah, thanks. Okay. I'm just going to make myself my own Pi. So, yeah, there's a few things that have come up. I mean, this is great. This is working. This is a great thing for me to test my boards with, right? And to flash them instead of me doing it, like to test my samples. But I'm not planning on going in production myself. If the USB plug was on the PCB, you could plug the Pico into that rather than plugging it into the cable. But how would I plug it into a fixed position port and still be able to maneuver it onto pogo pins? I don't understand how I'd do that, Rob. Like, it'd have to be a flexible USB. Because it still needs to get, like, do you understand? Like, there's no, like, it needs to be dropped onto the pogo pins. How would I plug it into the USB at the same time? I'm not sure. Tiny Pico slides in between that and the tester somehow clamps the board in place. Right, so I thought of, one of the solutions I thought of, like assuming that I have to go for some type of clamp to hold it down, and I don't want to clamp directly on here, would be, yeah, for instance, that if this was all redesigned, so I thought about either dropping the pogo pins lower. I've already built a pogo pin jig, by the way, out of acrylic with the holes. So I've already designed, I haven't cut it yet, so I can position the pogo pins better, because you can see here, they're on it, you might be able to see, they're on a slant because of the way I wedged them, which is working fine here now, but see that slant? Not very good. I thought about dropping the pogo pins. If I drop the pogo pins, then I don't have to build the height. I still can't use these clamps, but I could drop the board into like this layer here, so the cutout was here. Or one more layer for do the cutout. So I could do that, or I could do a slide in. So you slide it in. The problem with sliding it in is you're going to slide it in over the pogo pins. If you're not careful, you're going to scrape the pogo pins, which could potentially break them. And the other thing I need to be careful of is wear and tear on everything, right? Wear and tear on the pogos, wear and tear on the USB cable. You know, like I try to be careful when I plug it, unplug it. I don't know if people who are testing are going to be, you know. The expectation is that I'm going to have to supply it with lots of cables. If people are going to be plugging something directly into the board, in and out the board, they're going to rip the USB off the board. Like, you need to assume that they're going to rip it off the board. One problem at a time, that would fix the position. Right, I could do that, Rob, but then I have to build two PCBs as a sandwich, and the pogos have to be lowered, which means I need some type of lowering system, or I need some type of hinge system, and then yeah, a lot of other problems with that as well. And then by putting the board on, putting something over the top, it's going to interfere with the antenna more. May not be a problem, may be a problem, I don't know. USB the clamp. Slide the Pico into the USB on the clamp. Then clamp down puts it on the pins. There are lots of options, but I need to be able to mechanically produce it, and it needs to be 100% stable and reliable, and 100% reproducible by me. So yes, there are stacks of options. Yeah, please explore. Go for it. Here's a micro USB cable with the locking pins removed. Right, I could cut the locking pins off. The problem with cutting the locking pins off is I've got no guarantee that they're going to push the USB cable in all the way, that it's going to be in there, that, you know, maybe the board fails because it's not, you know, it's knocked out, it's pulled out a bit. You know, maybe a nice way of doing it would be that it goes into the clamp first, closed, and then the USB is plugged in. That way the board's kept still. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of options. I just don't know what I can produce. You know, like I could always do a strip of acrylic that sits here, that's as wide as the components, right? And that gets hinged down and locked in, like either like maybe something like a cam, but the cam holds the acrylic in place, or, you know, or another interesting thing would be if the board was extended out here a bit more, and there was a micro switch here. And as they fold it down to hold the board in place, it holds the micro switch down, and maybe they do need to hold it down. I don't want them holding the board in place, that's crazy, but if they held this down, and while it's down, the micro switch is enabled and everything can run, and if they let go, everything shuts down because the micro switch is disabled, maybe that's a way of doing it. But I need to build something mechanical with a hinge on it that can hold it down, right? So, you know, we're talking about a much more complex setup. Pogo pins with the USB port under the board. So, firstly, there's nothing exposed for the USB under the board, and I'm not going to do a revision with anything exposed on the board just for testing purposes. I don't want the boards to go out with USB exposed, but more importantly, I need to test the USB socket. What I'm doing by doing everything via exposed pads, you eliminate testing of essential components. When people get this board, they're going to plug it in and program it via the USB port, and the only way to test the USB connection is on correctly is to test the USB port. So there's no point putting pads on the bottom. I have to physically connect a USB in there to test the USB port. Pins cannot be fed. Right, as I just said, yeah. No, I'm not interested in testing USB externally. It eliminates a mechanical... what it does is it means that I'm not testing a massive failure point, which is a USB port. It would be cool to not have... Yeah. Yeah. Lots of people... Yeah. No. So, any pads I expose on the bottom to help me with testing eliminates my ability to test the physical hardware and the mechanical hardware. So what's the point in testing it then? So it's great. So all the boards go out, they all work, except USB ports aren't soldered properly, and then no one can program their boards because no one's tested the USB port. Sockets are hard to solder and hard to inspect. They're very easy to have them not soldered properly. Very easy. What's Alan pointing to? Let's have a look at Alan's link. What Alan said. Something like this, then add a voltage cutout switch. Yeah, so again, the problem with this, I've looked at all of these, right? And I'm not saying I won't do this. These are problematic, and I'll explain why. Firstly, you need to... They come in 100 different sizes. They come in different heights, different widths, different lever positions, different pressure amounts, yeah? All of those things. So identifying the right one I need is a problem because you need to pretty much build the test jig itself. Hang on. You need to build this specifically to work with your choice of clamp. That's the first problem. The second problem is there is no way I can use one of those on my Pico. My Pico's too small. Putting the pressure of that on one of these is a problem. I'd still need a way of covering and protecting the Pico for that to go onto. Does that make sense? So yes, absolutely this is an option. But also look at the size of them. I'm going to need to build a test rig. I'm going to have to... Oh, God. I need more space. I'm going to have to rebuild my test rig this big to be able to support a clamp that sits externally somewhere that can clamp down on the board. Absolutely doable, but it's a complete redesign again. So, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to do a redesign, but yes, there's... If I'm going to do a redesign and use a clamp, it's a massive redesign. Okay, possible crazy idea. Housing, you slide the board into, that housing has a line of ball bearings that are pushed up by pogos. The ball bearings make the contact between the pogo and pads. Right. Just for everyone on this, one thing is the tiny FPGA, firstly, it's not... Where'd I put it? It's, there's one specific difference. You're right, it's not much bigger. It's got no antenna on it. So I can bend this antenna out of shape just by putting a tiny bit of pressure on it. Okay, I've got to be super careful with this. That antenna, if those antennas get damaged, the board is useless. It gets chucked in the bin. So, yes, the tiny FPGA is not that much bigger, but if you look at it, the actual area you can clamp it, in my case, I've only got here to here. I've only got like half the board, half the tiny FPGA to clamp it down with. So yes, a clamp will work, can work, yes, but that antenna, if I get a tester that's overzealous, that puts it in somehow and gets it somehow wrong and clamps it wrong and squishes that antenna, that board's chucked out. Which I know potentially doesn't cost me anything, but that means I've done a fail on the test rig, if that's possible, if that makes sense. Right? Look, I've heard horror stories of the testing phase. I've seen people testing. I've been with Shenzhen on the line. I've seen people testing. I've seen the stuff they're testing with. I've seen, you know, like I'd have to build something that guided the pressure point exactly on the clamp, that had a lot of protection. Like the idea of sliding something in might be the way to go, and then having something above that holds it down. But yeah, that antenna is a bit of a problem. This whole side here of the antenna is floating. Like even right now, this antenna is slightly bent. It's completely floating. And this antenna, the metal is so thin, it'll just break off. Only so contact area would be the top of the MCU. Well, somewhere between the MCU and the USB. So right there. So I'd have to find something that has a very small clamping area. Sneaky double stream. Hey, Brian. Well, I wanted to do the, hey, look, you know, it did work stream. Because my other one ended so abruptly. An acrylic U-shape over the board to evenly apply pressure on all points, except the antenna. Yeah, absolutely, that's what I was saying. So maybe what I have is something, well, I don't want to put on the USB either. So maybe I have some acrylic, like a strip. What do I have here? This is probably too wide. No, look at that, almost perfect, right? So let's say when it's there, there's an acrylic strip that gets put down, like that, right? And the acrylic strip is clamped. So therefore, I've got no pressure directly on the ICs. There could even be some padding on the bottom of the acrylic, and there's no chance of it hitting the antenna. It could even be nice and thick, so it sits higher than the antenna. So there's no chance I'm touching the antenna. Toggle clamp is what most take. Yes, I know that's what they use, but finding a toggle clamp that will work in my particular case, I've looked. I've spent hours on RS components. They've got, I think, 150 toggle clamps in their list. Magnets near electronic devices, near RF when I'm testing stuff, yeah, that's not going to happen. Right, so hang on. So Mike just sent an image of SparkFun. Let me just bring that up. Right, and they're using the cam idea. Yep. That, I mean, again, that's possible, but that requires a redesign of my board to be able to do that. Why can't I see Mike's? I don't know, but I've got it up here now. I don't understand how this is any safer for the antenna if the board is misplaced. No, it's not. No. I need to fix the placement of the board. Absolutely. The discussion right now is like, we're just going through different discussions. Hey Gary, I can't solve. Let me. I'll repaste it. Hang on. I don't know why can't see Mike's. I can. There it is. Try that one. So Ben, the question here is not like I need to solve all of this together. I can't solve these things individually. Like I can't solve how do I lock the board in place and not solve how do I clamp it down and not solve how do I prevent people from destroying the USB, plugging in and out aggressively, or how do I solve the whatever. That's all. Like it's like doing all that. I can't do this. This equals hinged acrylic. Yeah, well, and I spoke about that as well. Like hinged acrylic, absolutely, but I need to build that. I need to design and mechanically build that. Can I? I'm sure I can after many iterations, but again, stuff I've never done before. This is not like none of this is new. None of this is uncharted territory. I mean, this has been solved 1,000 times by lots of different people, but I've never solved it. There are places I can go to in China and say these are my requirements, and they'll build me a test rig. No problem, but that's going to cost me a lot of money and a lot of time, and it's Chinese New Year, so. I'm happy to keep iterating on this. My biggest problem right now is whatever I do on my next step has to be with this board. I can't change my board right now because of China. So any solution I come up with for the moment, I'm trying to come up with that can work with this configuration. Right? Which means I can't easily build a holder for this to slot into. I'm saying I can't do it, but I can't easily build one that'll fit with this mechanic. I'm going to try today. Don't get me wrong, I'm quite happy to try. It's just acrylic in time on my laser cutter. But I'm thinking that only solves one of the problems. If that makes sense, yeah. So yeah, this SparkFun one's interesting. Like that's how they fit it in place and that's how they clamp it down. Again, I don't think these tabs are a solution for a production line in China. I don't know, like, you remember SparkFun make their own stuff. They do their own short run and long run stuff. So whoever's using this test rig at SparkFun, you're pretty sure they're not the janitor. What is Rob posted to? Open new window. By the way, the reason I'm doing this on a stream and not as a video is I want everyone's suggestions. Like, don't get me wrong. Unfortunately for you all, I've had way more time to think about it than you have. So, like, again, I don't mean to be at all dismissive. I really appreciate everyone's thoughts on this. That's why I'm doing it as a stream. Test rag PCB clamp fixture. So what is that? So that's a 3D printed thing. There's a hinge here. Obviously with the spring, they push that down. Lifts it up, lifts it down. So I would need that to work on both sides of the board. It can't be two clamps. Because if it's two clamps, I don't know how someone would clamp both and get the board in. They've only got two hands. Does that make sense? They're closing just before. No, everyone's closing on the 30th. Or JLC, at least PCB way that I know of, they're all closing on the 30th. They're taking an extra week. It's supposed to be just 2 weeks for Chinese New Year, but everyone seems to be taking 3 weeks. So I don't really have time. Hang on, JLC, PCB. I type in JLC PCB and the very first ad is PCB way. And then all PCB. How funny is that? Right, yeah, so they're closing January 30th to Feb 11th. Okay, so they're only doing 2 weeks-ish. Okay, still. The problem right now is there's no point me submitting boards before they close because they're not going to start them before they close. They are swamped. Everyone's trying to get their boards in straight away. Crowdsourcing ideas for stuff. Yeah, I love the idea for crowdsourcing ideas. That's why I do it on my stream. There are many in the community here that have done stuff like this before or that are way smarter than me. I'm quite happy to leverage that. But yeah, I've got the advantage of having thought through a lot of this stuff already in advance and potentially dismissing stuff already. So sorry about that. Assume it's an anti-URL spam tactic. Yeah, I don't know why Mike's wasn't working. Maybe because he tagged me in it? I don't know. Normally it gets flagged and mods. Oh, right, you're talking about that. So, yeah, I don't mind this idea, but it would have to span across the whole board. Which means, so I'm just going to go to me full screen for a moment, sorry. So it means that if there are pins here and here, it would have to lift up enough. The hinge would have to be enough that it could lift up enough to get a board in cleanly, right? If it only hinged a little bit, then you could risk whacking the pogos as you're scraping the board in. Does that make sense? So it would have to... I don't know if there's enough in this picture. I'm not sure there's enough give on something like that. It'd have to be much taller, which means I'd need longer pogos. But yeah, that's a potential idea. No easy way of replacing the pogos on that. Definitely not a nice way of wiring them up, though. I really don't like the idea of having wires everywhere. That's just potential disaster. Maybe using a caddy that you can put the board in. Right. Hey, Rolves. So that was... I suggested that earlier in the stream. One of the options that was discussed last night is... I'll just come back to here for a second. Is that the board gets inserted into a caddy which connects the USB. So you slide the board into a caddy that is holding the USB, right? So part of the putting it in is you need to lock the USB in. And when the USB is locked in, it's in the right point in the caddy. Then the caddy can be put in the jig. But again, I can't fit that in. Like, I'm not going to be able to reproduce that on here, on this board design, because of my spacing for the screen. I don't have long enough pogos. I'd have to either get much longer pogos to be able to build the board up, build the whole test jig up higher to do that. Or I'd have to potentially just cover half the screen for now, I guess, which is not really a problem. There could be a double movement of the clamp. There could be a double movement of the clamp, but mechanically, I don't know how I'd build that. Like, it's out of my pay grade right now to build something that complex. And the more moving parts, the more potential breaking points and stuff like that, right? Like, I'm trying to solve all this myself, which maybe is the first problem. Maybe I should get someone else to do it. I don't know. Alan sent another link. What is this one? One day I'm going to open a link and it's going to be really bad. Results. SMT with location peg through hole. SMT with location peg. So what are these, Alan? Maybe to use to slide in contact. How would they be used? Well, what do you mean? Yes, I've ordered some sleevings for the pogos. The pogos can be replaced. They're on their way. But it also increases the length, which might be good if I go extra height for this. Thanks for the idea, Sion. What idea? So what are these, Alan? How do these work? They look like little pogos, but what do they do? I don't have anything on the board to do registration with something like that, so I'm not sure how that would work. And are they big? 5mm, 3.6mm, free height, 2.8mm. Yeah, they're not huge, but I'm not sure how that would work. I'm liking this idea, but it's a lot of mechanical pieces. I just don't know Ben, previous message. Wild idea, swap the 2 rows of pogos and program the boards upside down. Then you can push anywhere and nowhere, and push will be damage the antenna. Yes, except there's going to be PS RAM in the middle. So there is no, the only place I can push from is from the top of the PS RAM, which means I'm putting pressure on the IC to push it down. I can't put even pressure. Yeah. So, yes, I could potentially protect the antenna, assuming that, eBay order update, okay, assuming that they don't damage it putting into a slot. Oops, sorry. So if it's upside down, I could potentially, yes, assuming the slot is big enough that they don't knock the antenna on the way in. But my problem is going to be the RAM on the bottom. I mean, obviously there's headers here, but that would be the only pressure point on an IC. I'm not sure that's a good idea. See that PCB. Which PCB? You mean on the pictures that I had here? Which PCB we're talking about? Sorry, which one are we talking? Is this a product they sell? Interesting if it's a product they sell. If you do the acrylic hinge, they can have a cutout. Sure. But if I'm doing the acrylic hinge that has a cutout, and I still need to solve... Sorry. If I'm doing a hinge that has a cutout, and I need to cut around the chip, and I still need to solve the placement, then I could just as easily do it this way. Also, they need to be able to see the lights on the board. I need to be able to test the APA. So the APA has to go green. So if the board's underneath, then I could be able to see that. Here's a link to make them for my spec. To make what for my spec? Right, okay. Sure, I mean, it's something I can look at, but also, again, the flip side is look at the size of them, right? So, and it's what I said before, and I've got no problems if I'm going to redo this to do it, but one of the things I said earlier was the only way I'm going to get clamping working, like external clamping working, is to make my test jig this big, right? And I can do that. It's just big base, more acrylic, right? The PCB doesn't have to be that big, and the Pi can sit in the middle or wherever. But yes, I end up making a much bigger test jig. So it might be on the cards. And if I do that, then potentially I can use external clamps on the side, whether it's a clamping device, like the metal ones or something like that. Absolutely. But right now I can't do that easily with this board layout. Going back to the hinged acrylic, you can test the tiny pico in the 2-layer hinge. Maybe also could incorporate the USB plug in the hinge. How would I... I can't visualize that, Paul. A 2-layer hinge. So you're talking about a hinge like... So it can do this, but it's got 2 bits. So you can go like that, put the board into the USB, clamp that down, and then it can fit freely like this, if that's what you mean. That's an interesting idea. I'm very worried about failure points on something like that. When they pull it open or something, they snap it off or something. Downside of big test jig, not an option to just have many on one desk. So that's another interesting problem. So whatever solution I come up with can't really be a one-person multiple jig testing. For a couple of reasons, especially if there's going to be any requirement for the person to hold something in place, right? And I don't mind the idea of them holding it down themselves, holding a hinged acrylic down themselves with a micro switch, and they have to hold it to test the board. I mean, we're talking about 40 seconds, right? I don't mind that, maybe, as a last resort, rather than a hands-off. But I can't do... This is not going to be an option. Test, one person. And I'll tell you why. Because I need to be able to test Wi-Fi. So I need to be able to put this into AP mode and have the Pi find it, and then put this into AP mode and have this find it. And the only way to do that is they need to be far enough, the test jigs need to be far enough apart that this isn't finding this test jig, right? Or I need to put custom software on every test jig that has completely different AP versions, which means I'm maintaining multiple code bases, or at least a file on each device that is a different file that has a different name or different context to, so say this knows to make this AP1 and that's AP1, and this one knows to make this one AP2, etc. Which means there's a lot of extra work there and a lot of extra things that can go wrong from a setup point of view. The easiest way would just be one test rig per person type thing. I don't know. Paul, I meant the hinge made out of 2 layers of acrylic. Yeah, that's what I was saying. So 2 layers of acrylic. Or you're talking about 2 layers sandwiched together, not openable. I don't understand how that would work with the USB though. Using the toggle clamp. Here's another one. Open link in a new window. Take your Pogo jig to next level. Sure. That's really not much different to what I've got right now, except that's got a 3D holder, and we've already spoken about having a holder. Yeah, I mean, I've seen this page before. I mean, if you look here at the cam, it's similar to what I'm doing. This is actually where I got the idea of the cam, was from this specific image. Right, the problem with that is, again, it's the pressure point. I mean, that's cute, right? So a little clamp like that could work, but again, nowhere to put it on my current board. I'd have to make my board bigger and find the right height and everything else. So that's definitely an option. Assuming that if you look at the size of the guy's thumb, though, and the size of the pad on the pressure point, right? I mean, that might just fit on my board, which is fine. So again, that's what I was talking about before. A lock in place so it can't go anywhere, and then a clamp that goes down on it. It can definitely work, absolutely. I need to find the right clamp. I need to find the right locking place to be able to do it, to be able to guide the board down into place, and I'd need to be able to do that on this board and find a place where to mount it where it's not in the way of the USB. This USB here on the Pi is just terrible. Like, maybe what I need to do is rotate my board around so that becomes the back. I think did I mention this on my stream yesterday? Maybe. And everything's turned around, and this is the front, and then the clamp happens here. Clamp can't happen from the side because there's USB here, right? So it can't happen on this side, and the clamp can't be on here because of the power. Not unless this is completely hidden. Like, I can't have the clamp up here because it's going to push down. Yeah, it's definitely an option. I need to pick one and then redesign my rig. I mean, I guess that's ultimately it. I need to pick a solution and redesign my rig to work with it. Dave just melted another soldering station. Did he? On purpose? You can do that automatically, for example, by using the CPU serial number of each Pi. Right, I could do that. I could use the MAC address as well. That's a good point, Ben. I could do that. So the AP name could just be the MAC address of the Tiny Pico. Good point. Okay, thank you. See? That's why I like discussing this stuff here. Awesome. I'm going to be scraping the MAC address anyway to log the test data. So, yeah. So as a first revision, I'm super happy with this. Like, I didn't expect this really to come together like this easily. And I'm quite happy. I didn't expect my board to work first time, and it did. As in this board. like well, I think it works. I haven't got it testing every single I/O pin yet, so I'm going to do that today. I was going to do it last night at the MicroPython meetup, but I forgot to bring my adapter for my flash stick, and so I couldn't change the Wi-Fi credentials, and because I couldn't change the Wi-Fi credentials, I couldn't SSH to the box. And I don't have a GUI on here, and I didn't have a screen or the HDMI that I could connect, and it was just terrible. Yeah, that was a good idea, Ben. I agree, Paul. Ben gets a gold star. So yeah, there are lots of options. I just have to pick one. This is working for now. It's just not yet. It's not stable enough. You can see, like, after a bit of use, it's already wobbly. I've got a double nut. I've got a nut inside here and a nut on the bottom. But see, the nut on the bottom comes loose all the time. I could put a locking nut there. Yes, I mean, there are things I can do to fix that. I've got washers inside here to lift the height, to make sure that I've got the height perfect. You know, I'm sure there's other things I can do simply to lock the board in place. I could probably make just a half piece here that sits there. There are definitely some things I can do on here to make it easier for this setup. Oops, it's off the screen. But yeah, it's whatever I do here is still not going to be robust enough for what's happening in China, I believe. I haven't tested my LiPo stuff yet either. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, look at that. And I've been going for over an hour, and I wanted to just do an hour stream. Wowza. An hour and 16. So I'm not doing a super long stream today, folks. But I felt like you all deserve to see the result. Because yesterday there was no result. The stream just died. If only the TP came with header pins attached, and then you could just plug it into the female headers. Right, I could do that, except I hate receiving boards that have got header pins on it. Like, I hated getting this Pi with the header pins already on it. No. The boards will ship with header pins, but not attached. That's not an option. Because getting them off again is disgusting. Could a metal weight on the free end of the acrylic hinge hold the board down on the pins rather than lock in place? Mate, I wouldn't want to put metal anywhere near it because it's going to affect potentially the RF a lot. But I mean, let me just bring up some code just for a second. Let me just restart the, just restarting the board, right, the code. Because right now it exits the code. I don't have it restarting itself. So just to show, like, how much pressure you need to get this on for it to detect the board. I mean, I'm hardly putting any pressure. See the difference there? Load board. Press button. Like, I'm not even halfway down the cam acrylic. Like, this is how far I can push it. See that? You might not see that. It's a bit hard to see. Let me see if I can rotate it. Just to show you. Like, there's a lot of give there, right? So, right now... Oh. Reset. So... Sorry. It does the fail of the thing. So right now I'm doing a little bit of pressure. That's it. See, it goes green. Off. On. It doesn't need a lot of weight. You want to have edge guides to stop the board moving sideways and avoid the clamp moving in an arc. Close the clamps down. And bug the pins. Absolutely. Hey, embedded hobbyist. That's what we've been discussing. So all the things I need to do, they're all fine. They're things I didn't think of when I was designing this, obviously, because I'd never done this before. But right now, it's how do I do all that with this board design? Because I haven't really given myself enough space to do that, but I can definitely do it. So a non-metal weight then. Yeah, potentially a weight. Might not be enough, though. Maybe. Again, I don't want a failure point of the test to be that there wasn't enough weight holding it down. It needs to be foolproof. I'm getting twisted cables everywhere. It needs to be 100% foolproof, so I'm not sure just a free weight by itself is going to be enough. We do an alternating hole technique on the TP and have the male headers on the tester. Male headers on the tester. So the board gets plugged in to the headers and then the pressure makes contacts, I don't think that's going to be enough contact. Again, it's another potential fail point. I don't want boards failing testing because they just weren't making good enough contact on the pins. You know, the pins, the wear and tear of sliding up and down those pins and stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure that's a good idea as well. So a few people last night mentioned wear and tear to me. Like they said, and again, I don't know how many I'm going to need. I don't know how many boards are going to go through one of these testers. But, you know, one guy said to me, expect to, you know, supply 4 or 5 USB cables with every tester, just in case they wreck the USB cable, in case they rip it out, pull it, whatever happens, you know. Make sure that whatever stuff that they're touching is replaceable. Needs to be China-factored. Yes. China-ficated. That's a great word, whatever it means. It needs to be 100% foolproof. I've used clamps like you've got for low volume test jigs. Works okay. Sure. Yeah, these are, as I said, these were an idea I had and they work for me, but they're not nowhere near what we need for stability in testing. Maybe if they were bigger or, you know, or something, they weren't so flimsy, maybe. I don't know. I don't have a lot of edge space to clamp with. I could probably reposition them to put them in a better position for clamping, maybe, I don't know. But that requires either me drilling the boards, the PCBs for now, or a new PCB. Yeah, so it's all doable. I mean, the little clamps, I think, is probably going to be my best option. I don't recall seeing a little clamp, or a clamp that small. Let me find that page again. Where was it? Yeah, this one. I like how little that clamp is. I don't know if I saw one that small on RS Components. Maybe I did. I might go hunting for one. See, a clamp that small, right? The clamp could sit here. So what I could do is I could make the base stick out to here. And then I can make the top, so it doesn't wobble. And I can make the top stick out to there. And I could bolt the clamp to the acrylic and have it pull down this way. So I guide the board here. So you put the board in, it's got a boundary so it locks into place, and you pull it down. I like that little clamp. Like, yeah, as I said, I was expecting, the ones I've seen were much bigger. They needed to be locked to the base. They had a base like this big. And they had a much bigger head. And then you had to work out the height and angles and everything of the clamp. But that looks like it's flat. It looks like the part it's clamping is flat with the part it's attached. So I like that. Replaceable pins, yes. As I said, I've got receptacles coming. Though the higher you protect the pins, the more chance that they're not going to bend. And having the boundary around the board to lock the board so it can't shift in any direction other than up and down will help not breaking the pins. Like what? What does, like, Leo, like what? What was that question from? Oh, we've lost Leo. What I liked about the idea of having a micro switch or something that gets triggered when it gets clamped, I like that idea because right now it starts doing the detection as soon as it sees the short to ground and it knows there's a board there. It'd be really cool. See you, Andy Mouse, have a good sleep. It'd be really cool if the test didn't start till the micro switch was hit. Because that would also alleviate the need for a user to push the button. I kind of like the button idea because I feel like that's a commitment to start the test, like start. So the user's engaged, the tester's engaged, they know when it's starting. It's not like, oh, I put it down and I was looking somewhere else at the time and, oh, what happened, right? But again, it's one extra step. Eliminating steps is a good thing, I think. Yeah. Just chat delay. Ray Tool QR01 on Banggood, $1.76. What is that? Is that this little clamp? Ray Tool QR01. Let's have a look. Let's go to AliExpress. Ray Tool. I wouldn't want to buy one from Ali though. Ray Tool. Is that right? Or is it Rui Tool? No. Digital caliper. Oh, Ray QR01. Right, okay. Thanks, Mike. Cool. So what I need to do is see what they are on... The problem with me going Ali now is I'm not going to have it for 3 or 4 weeks. I don't have 3 or 4 weeks. So let's go to RS Components. RS Components Australia. Let's see what RS have got. They might not have that brand. Ray Tool QR01. We'll try. If not, no. Okay. What are they calling it? Toggle clamp. They've got stacks of them. I've got to remember what they call them. Toggle clamp. Toggle clamp. Toggle clamp. Clamps 36. Oh, well, I said 100. I lied. 36. Still, that's a lot of them. You need to make sure messages are clear, such as words that the Chinese operators can understand, like okay instead of the end. Right. So the English that's on here right now is just for me. Whoops. Let me just go back to here for a second. The English right now is just for me for testing, so I don't have to look at a console. So the way it's going to work is once this is ready to go to China, I need to make a video of it being used. So a video of everything. This is how you plug it in. This is how you put it on. Blah, blah, blah. This is how you do a whole test. Here's a pass state. And then an example, a video example of here's a fail state, right? And so I supply them all of that. And then I need to supply them written documentation on all of the error codes and everything else. Because internally I'm tracking an error code for everything that goes wrong. And what I'll probably end up doing is the only thing that happens on the screen is an error code. Like there'll be maybe a spinning icon when it's testing and an error code if there's a fail or a tick if there's a pass. That's all that'll be on the screen. And what happens is the people in China, someone will take my videos and take my documentation and they will translate them all for their testers. It probably can do Chinese, but I don't speak Chinese, so there's no way I'm putting Chinese on this board that's going to tell someone in China something, because I can't do that, right? I'm not using Google Translate for that. So I don't need to, because the people in China will translate my stuff. They'll obviously get an English-speaking person. They'll translate my videos and translate my documentation, and they will train their testers from that how to use it. So I could even leave the English on the screen and it doesn't matter because they won't be using it, right? They'll be taught how to do the testing. So I'm not so much worried about that. For me right now, it's just a guide. Back in a bit. Bye, Alan. So yeah, and at the end, what it should, if it's green, it's green, and if it's red, it should show a code, and that code will be a very clear. They'll be able to have a document that'll say this code means this. You know, this code means could not find GPIO 7, LED 7. No, there is no 7. That's why I can't find it. I couldn't find 33, right? Or 33 failed to be an input or an output, or it might say failed to initialize Wi-Fi antenna or something. And based on the severity of that list, it'll either be a throw the board in the bin, or let's try to work out, like it might be a simple fix. And depending on how many times they're seeing that error, they track how many times that error is. That then is okay, well hang on, we've seen that error, we've made 50 boards and we've seen that error 5 times, right? That's a 10% fail rate. Okay, we need to look into why this is happening. Is it a faulty part? Is it if 5 boards out of 50 can't find IO33, that means there's a PCB problem, right? Something on the PCB is faulty. Oh. So, yeah, that's... I need to give them the ability to problem solve stuff. And let's go back to this desktop. So these clamps, I want to see if they've got... See, like I've seen all of these ones, right? These, not those ones. I mean, these are all massive. Let's see if they've got a little one. Is there a Seymour? Seymour products. See, 35mm vertical toggle. I mean, that's huge. See these ones here? They're massive. That's why I looked at these and thought, okay, I don't know how I can incorporate this in. They don't seem to have those little ones. So I need to find a place that I can... oh, who's going? Sorry, Leo. Catch you later. Bye. Thanks for joining. Yeah. So I need to find those little ones locally. Or at least not from China. Final Arrow. Yeah, maybe. Or Arrow. Yeah, maybe Arrow. Arrow.com. I could try Element 14. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of places I can try. Getting Jigy with it. Yeah, I was going to put that as the title. Hey, Michael, on the... But I thought, no, I better not do that. Try order by price to find little ones. Price of the thing, yeah. I went through all the ones that were on there, so they didn't work. There was nothing there. Toggle clamp. God, little tiny pictures. They only got 3. Haven't tried Farnell yet, no. It's an Adafruit one. CPC, who is CPC? Let's try Element 14. Melbourne? What? There's no office in Melbourne. It's Australia. It's Sydney. Anyway. Toggle clamp. Clamps. I mean, I'm just going by the pictures right now to see whether they, so is there any specs on this one? Not this one. This one that says what size it is. 30 kilos, 66 pounds. 30 kilos? Jeez, that's a lot. U-bar vertical. U-bar vertical. Go away. Is there a, right. I need to see if there's any specs on this. Farnell, all the same company, but aimed at different markets. CPC has lots of tools. Okay, I've never, okay. CPC, you reckon? Whoops, go away. CPC. Right, CPC.Farnell. Okay. Toggle, clamp. 2 pieces, pull latch, Amazon. Amazon. Amazon where though? Wow, that's only got 3 items. They've got less. CPC's got less than what Element 14 have. I mean, they won't have Amazon.com.au. I bet you. Oh, right. 4 pieces. Yeah, except they're the wrong type of clamps. But this brand though, maybe. What's this brand? Sod's Law. Right, that's all it's got here. Let's go to normal Amazon. Amazon.com. I can now, well, see, puts me back to Australia. I can So they stopped allowing Australians... Sorry, they stopped Australians from buying from Amazon.com when Amazon.com.au opened. But now they've let us buy again. Because Australia stocks nothing. It's crap. Toggle clamp. Oh, that looks right. Access to £500. What? Just can't tell how big they are. They look nice and small. 5-pack. What are these? I like the idea of a 5-pack. It's 201A. What are the specs though? Clamp size 7.5 by 2.5 by 1.7 centimeters. Arm opens 90 degrees. Application rock solid grip. Maybe eBay has some also. Look at their CH101A. Look at whose CH101A. Look, or at the... You mean on Amazon? CH101A. CH101-A. Right, okay. Right, so $16 for one. And does not ship to Australia. So, yeah, that doesn't help. This item does not ship to Australia. Oh, gotta be kidding me. Yeah, maybe eBay. Let's just look at eBay. ebay.com.au. Wow. So Clamp Tech. Clamp Tech. How'd they spell that? With a K. Just, oops. Clamptel. Good one, Sion. Oh, Clamptel. Apparently the I don't know how my keyboard works. Clamp Tech. Yeah. So obviously that's not a real name. Okay, toggle clamps. I don't mind buying from overseas so long as I can get them. Right, they're too big. These ones. Click and collect, so that's in Australia. That's the 201. Right, that's the one I was looking at on Amazon. $8, 4 pieces. From New Zealand, I don't care. Okay, interesting. There you go. Oh, it may not post to New Zealand. It's in Sydney. I can't read. Right, it's in Sydney. Our happy world. Yeah, I don't believe that's in Sydney. So there's a scam that happens in Australia. I don't know if it happens elsewhere, but what a lot of Chinese companies do now is they, especially if it's free postage, is they set up that they're in Australia and you buy it, and then you wait 4 weeks for it. That is absolutely not in Australia. Because there's no way they're shipping 4 of these, because these are not light. There's no way they're shipping 4 of these for $8.99 with free shipping. Not a chance in Australia. Shipping in Australia would be about $25. So yeah, I hate when that happens. Hey Pierre. Rob E's got this one. New link, open new window. Toggle clamps. Dawn quality vices and clamps. Legendary Australian company. Legendary. Hello, the only alien. Could you have the board placed and 2 pieces of acrylic sliding both slides where the header pins are to hold it? Right, but what would hold that acrylic that I'm sliding on in place? and how would it slide out to be able to, like, I'd have to slide something out probably that way, put the board on, lock it down in place, and slide it back. I can't because of the antenna and because of the, like, it, yeah, I know what you're saying. Well, there'll have to be two different pieces sliding, or it'll have to be a U shape, potentially could break. Yeah, I'm not sure that'd be structurally sound enough. The Only Alien, toggle clamp, Melbourne. Ooh, Melbourne. Are we sure? Desktop. Another one. Yeah, that's too big. Look at the size of the, it's the wrong type of head on that. Regardless of how small the clamp is, that won't work. Yeah. Let's see what was in this other one. I need something with a little head like this. Vertical action, holding down action. Need a little one. These are all massive. I mean, this looks like probably the smallest they've got. That's pretty big. New product, come on. Right, unless they've got other versions of it. Different sizes. Looks like they might have different sizes here. Let's need a small amount of holding capacity, 110 kilos. Right, so they've got different model numbers. I'd have to go through, I'd have to speak to them and find out the exact model, or go and find the other one, grab all the different measurements and see if I can find one that lines up with it. But how much are they? That is the question. Product inquiry. Yeah. And where are they? Heidelberg West. It's not too far. About 45 minutes. No, maybe an hour away from where I am. Maybe they have a showroom. I don't know. That'll be interesting. Yeah. So look, there are options if I go that route. And it looks like I might have to. It's probably going to be the most reliable. See you, Embedded Hobbyist. Thanks for joining. It was an impromptu. I wasn't expecting anyone to join, actually. So, yeah, I can definitely solve this. I'd probably have to, at least for this board, I'd have to lose this, oops, sorry. At least for this board, I'd have to not use that mounting clamp position, or I'd have to somehow incorporate that clamp position with the, I'm not going to draw it. So if the clamp was sitting here, somehow that would have, assuming that the length was right, that would have to be part of it. Or I'd have to just lose that clamp position completely, or screw the board down there and not have it come through the acrylic, which is also another option, which leaves me this point free on the acrylic to place the clamp how I need to. So if I solved that, then it doesn't matter how high I make the guide. Hey Chris, what did I miss? Hey! The stream started because I wanted to show people the end result of yesterday, because the stream stopped yesterday. No one saw it working. No one saw the issue I had when it wasn't programming it yesterday was that it was in deep sleep. It won't do it when it was in deep sleep. So I fixed that, and then I continued on with building a case for the Jigy to get it all working, which it does finally after I got rid of the crap firmware that was on here. And we've just been discussing all the different ways, all the different changes I need to make this a much more durable system. So I think today I've got an optometrist appointment, and then when I come back from that, I might have a play with redesigning this top piece or top pieces to build a place where I know I can't solve the USB right now, but to build something that can guide the board in, so there's no possible way you can misalign the pins. And if I can solve at least that for now, even if I have to hold it down with my finger, I think that's a good start, because this won't work anymore, because the board will be sitting lower, because of the guides than these things can hold it in with. So I'll just take these off. But having the guide right, I think, is the right way to go, I think. Putting the guides in there for now. So I can do that with a redesign of this top. And then if I can find some clamps in Melbourne today or tomorrow, I can get that mechanically working as well. Even if it's clamping onto the board, I don't mind. If it's rubber and it's small enough to clamp the board, I think that's fine. The question is going to be is can I get a thing small enough? How heavy is it going to be? How big do I need to make it? And so forth. But yeah, wow, cool. So I think that's it, folks. Unless anyone's got any other suggestions on other things I can try. You've all been awesome. Yeah, the problem with Banggood, Michael, is that, again, I don't want to rely on anything that's got to come from China right now with the Chinese New Year. I need to source something locally. I need to have this solved. So for me, and it's just me, right? I need to have this and my Tiny Pico boards solved before my campaign launches. Not everyone does that, I know. A lot of people change the design of their boards during the campaign and they just show prototypes and whatever. I am not comfortable doing that. I want to know that when the campaign launches, that I've got every element of everything solved. Right? I've got, a couple of quotes on where I can get production done from small run to large run. I've got my test jig and programming system down pat and working, that I know that all I have to do is duplicate them to send them. Jigy crashed, so no worries. And I want to make sure that the samples that go out and the boards that I showcase on the crowd supply campaign are my finished working product, that I'm not making any changes to the board once the campaign goes live. It's just important for me. I don't want to be scrambling during the campaign. Hey, Def Palm. Hey, Scott. How you doing? It's hard enough running a campaign as it is. I've run a failed Kickstarter before, a long time ago in the gaming space when Kickstarter first launched in Australia. I know plenty of people that have launched crowdfunding campaigns and how much work's involved. What I want to do during the campaign is focus my time on getting the word out, getting people to see the board, increasing the amount of people that are backing the board, and not scrambling to try to finish stuff off that I haven't solved yet. I think that's setting, like me personally, I know myself, that's setting me up for failure. That's going to send my stress levels through the roof. So that's why I'm kind of rushing to solve this now, if that makes sense. I want the launch of the crowd supply campaign to be something that I enjoy. Like I want to enjoy presenting this and getting this out to people. I don't want to hate the process because I went into it early. So that's why that's why I took this to this level. I mean, this does not need to have all this acrylic on it to test it, right? I just needed to test the board. I didn't have to go this far, but there were questions in my head I needed answers for. And because I have the equipment here to do it, that was something I could do. But yeah, I need to solve this. Okay, well, you came in late, Scott. I'm wrapping this one up. It's a short stream for Sion. Well, not really. It's 2 hours now. Holy moly. How about a spring-loaded clamp? Spring-loaded clamp. Isn't that the clamps we're talking about? Or are you talking about something else? I do have... I'll show you what I've got on the way. I should have mentioned this. I don't think they're going to work. I don't think they're going to be reliable enough for me. Let's see if I can log in. I'll show you what I bought on eBay. How do I log in on eBay? Sign in. Just 1 second. I don't want to show you what's happening. Yeah, missed a bit. So on yesterday's stream, at 3.5 hours, the stream died, and no one got to see the finished result of me building one of these boards and having it working just as a board. This is my test jig for my Tiny Pico for my first prototype. And so yesterday I got it to this state, and I wanted to update everyone. And I thought, rather than making a video, I thought I'd do it as a live stream, because I had lots of unanswered questions about how I'm going to solve some of the problems with this. So that's why I did a stream. And everyone's been putting in their input, and it's been awesome. Really good. Okay, my eBay. Just hold on 1 second. Sorry, I want to Where are they? I bought these. So these are little plastic clamps. Come on, there we go. So these are like little spring-loaded clamps, right? So my idea was that I could potentially put those on each side of the board. Hang on. Let's do that again. So we get that lower. Right, I can't move my mouse. There we go. So the idea was that if maybe I could put one of those on each side of the board to clamp it down, and you don't have to use your fingers like this to push it to get the board on. And that might be another option, but the issue with that is they're quite high, which means they'd have to be sitting really low in the board, or the testing area needs to be raised quite a lot to get that to fit. On resting, the spring tension pushes up, clamping the board. So I'd have to, so you're saying raising the pogos into the board? I'd have to lock the board somehow. I mean, that could work the other way around, where I'm pushing the pogo pins down on the board, but that means I've got electronics above and below, which I'm again, more failure points. What's this image? Something like this. Right, yeah, that was discussed earlier. But you mean, oh right, for the clamp. Yeah, that could work. There might be enough pressure if I get enough spring on that. I could definitely look at doing something like that. I could probably make one myself. Sure. I probably wouldn't even need to. Yeah, I mean that's definitely an option. Again, like I mentioned before, like with the pogos or whatever, it would have to have a much higher pivot to get it high enough to get the board in. Like that's not enough clearance. That's great for the PCB sliding in, but people won't be sliding in. They'll have to be putting it in to get it inside a locked area. So that could, something like that could definitely work. So long as it can put enough pressure down. I'm not sure that I need a really strong spring to be able to hold enough pressure, I think. Printer bridge to strap it on to the board. 3D printer bridge. To hold it down, yeah, sure. The problem with, again, 3D printing a bridge and the hinging and everything else, that's great for me, but I can't rely on that on a production line. If that breaks on a production line, then the test jigs are broken. I need something that's really, really durable and reliable. And a metal clamp seems like the way to go, I guess, for that. Have you been able to look at other makers' test jigs? Yeah, I've looked at lots of different ones, and there's lots of different ways of making them. You know, quite a few jigs I've seen. So I'll just put this back this way. Are the other way round, where the pogos and everything comes down from the bottom. The board goes in, and then everything pushes from the bottom. The problem with that is I lose the ability to see the board when that happens. And I lose the ability to have like an interface on the top and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I've seen things built this way. I've seen things built the other way. There's a lot of pictures of test jigs out there. A lot of them are to do with testing board construction. They don't need the ability to do things like flash a board. You don't have to plug a USB into them. They don't have to flash and program and test stuff on a board. Like normally with a production, you'd technically, if it was a long enough production, I'd provide the picos pre-flashed, right? So there's no requirement to flash. So all they need to do is plug it in and test it. They technically don't even need to plug the USB in. But once again, that doesn't thoroughly test these boards. Now, if these boards were bigger, if there was more space, I'd be less worried because I could rework any failed boards if I needed to. I know that's not ideal, and I'm paying China to make them and whatever. But these are not easily reworked. Right? For every board that I have to work on when it comes back because there's something wrong with it, it's just a problem. Have we thought about another acrylic plate on top with a piano hinge? Yeah, we spoke about that earlier, that, you know, one of the things could be a hinge that, so when this is in, assuming it's locked in place. Let me just lock it in place right now. That rather than these, again, it could be a hinge that comes down that just sits over here. The question is, how does it lock in place? You know, again, is someone holding it? You know, any mechanical piece you need to push on to hold it in place, even like a cam or something, is a fail point. It's a place where something can break. Tiny bigger board that locates on the rods that are positioned where you currently have the camera. Sure, that was another thing. Not sure if you were there at the time, Rob. Another thing we discussed. We should also solve maybe the durability of the USB coming in and out would be a caddy that the USB is connected to, that they slot the board in the caddy, which connects to the USB, and then that caddy gets placed, and the caddy can have guidelines and stuff. Yeah, that's, again, another option, but I still need something to hold that down, right? So, and the downside to that is I'm placing stuff around the board and the antenna, which A, might protect the antenna, but will also affect the antenna. Yay! Station 240's got PCBs coming. There are various lever types, jigs, industrial types. Able to use one of those rather than some plastic type. Yeah, so we found these, Scott, which I really like the look of. Not those. No, sorry, I got stuff everywhere. Wow. Where is it? Right, these little ones. Where's that picture of it working? That one. So we found those, and I can get them from China, but I can't get them from China because of New Year. If I order these today, I'm not going to get them for 5 weeks, and I don't have 5 weeks. Yeah, but you can clamp the caddy if you're worried about clamping directly onto the board. I'm not worried about clamping directly onto the board. I'm worried about finding a clamp that gives me a small enough thing to push down. So I've got massive clearance. I don't want to... Like, I need to have lots of space away from the USB. Sorry, I'm not even pointing at it. I'm pointing at it, you can't see. The head of the clamp has to be small enough that there's no chance that it could be anywhere near anything else. Like, I get that it's rigid, potentially locked, but that's it. If I can find a clamp like that, this clamp here looks like exactly what I want. I just need to find, like, in terms of the lever position, the height, the clamping position, and the size of the clamp, that looks perfect for me. Can't use metal clamps, it might affect the Wi-Fi. Well, again, potentially yes, but so are the screws. The screws are going to affect the Wi-Fi, the screens are going to affect the Wi-Fi, this board's going to affect the Wi-Fi, the Pi's going to affect the Wi-Fi. So long as the antenna initializes and if I start an AP here, the Pi can read it, and if I start an AP on the Pi, this can see it. As long as they can see each other, I know the Wi-Fi is working, right? You know, what I can't do with this is test the quality of Wi-Fi. That's not going to happen. Any woodworking hobby shop should have the clamps. They might not have the exact clamp I need, though. So, if I can find this clamp, I mean, possibly, I'll do some research. There's obviously quite a few companies in Australia potentially I can get from, or I'm happy to buy from America, right? I just can't buy from China right now. Get the board in about the 7th of Feb. If I order from eBay today, I get what? What do I get on 7th of Feb, Paul? Which one do I get on 7th of Feb? That is very common. The clamp type is common. That size, I'm not sure is common. Which order? From which clamp? Where am I going to get? Where does it say 7th of Feb? Which one are you looking at, though? Like, you're not looking at an eBay listing that says should receive it between here and here, and you're not assuming that's correct, are you? Because it's never correct. If it's coming from China, it's pot luck when they're going to come. Totally pot luck. I'd rather buy from somewhere that wasn't China. Yeah. I mean, these look good, but they're not in Sydney, unfortunately. They look too big. Let's keep looking. Right, 99-cent postage. There's no way that's Australia. eBay don't take holidays into account. No, eBay don't take holidays into account. And you got to assume, like, I bought some stuff on Ali a week and a half ago. 2 of the items shipped yesterday. So a week and a half before they even shipped them, let alone how long it's going to take to ship, right? There's no guarantee that if I buy this today on eBay, it's going to ship today. And I don't want it to get stuck somewhere. Electronic company like JB. I've never heard of JB. Who's JB? Again, it says it's in Sydney. Right, it says estimated between 1st and 4th of Feb. 99 cents from Sydney. I mean, I'd risk this. For $10, I'd risk buying those. But I need to have a backup plan. Definitely need to have a backup plan. But yeah, they look cool. I mean, I'll probably do that. The order is processed before it will most likely arrive in 2 weeks. To Australia? Wow. I don't get anything in 2 weeks. I did for a little while, maybe August last year. But my last bunch of orders currently are sitting between 4 and 5 weeks. Yeah, we looked at Timcom before, or whatever they're called. How about Adafruit? Adafruit don't have the little ones. I looked at that. Oh, I just got a package from Adafruit yesterday, or the day before. One of my things I wanted to order was one of the clamps, but they didn't have these little ones. And they're expensive. And that was pre me building this and realizing how bad a solution it was. If it's click and collect, right, but I've had situations where it's not, well, where I order it and then I query what's happening with it, and they turn around and say, oh, sorry, we ran out of stock locally, it has to ship from China. Yeah. Yeah, someone already linked to Dawn Tools, I think. In a different, here it is. Yeah, been through all those. Thanks, Scott. The problem here is, A, they've got no pricing. B, they might have the size and shape I want, but I need to find it in this matrix. So I need to actually go find the one I want, work out all the sizes, and then have a look here. But assuming that this is, assuming I can get this, there's no way that Dawn Tools is going to do 4 of these for $10. I mean, these are probably crap. I don't know how long they'll last. I'm definitely going to buy these. I'm going to order these. And I'll see what they're like. JCar. No, JCar have nothing. JCar, Ultronics, no. No, they've all gone consumer electronics. Bit a new window, desk shaker. Yeah, that's too small. Sorry, I should have. Oh, maybe. There was something I didn't like about this. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what I didn't like about it. Or maybe it wasn't in stock at the time or something. Or was it the non-adjustable length here? I can't remember what it was. Why I discarded this. Oh, sorry. I can't remember why. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of room to adjust the length here. Yeah, JCar, yeah. A tragedy now when it comes to just electronics. Electronics are a bit better, but definitely too much consumer focused stuff. Yeah, look, I can order some of these as well and try them. I can't remember what it was about it though. There was something I didn't like. Anyway, yep. I think I'm gonna go for one of these, or a couple of these small ones, because I think I can fit that onto this mechanic, and I think I can. I think I can fit it onto this board design, and I think I can solve the guide at the same time by making new plates that go here. I think I'm definitely going to do that before I consider a board redesign. If I do a board redesign, I'm going to look at the other things like, you know, running USB separately, being able to control power with a MOSFET and stuff like that, I think. Plenty to think about. This stream's gone way too long. It was not my plan. Wowza, over 2 hours. Okay, I'm calling it, folks. Thank you all so much. Yeah, I'll need a new baseboard as well. Yes, I'll need to make the baseboard much bigger so I have plenty of... Like, if you see how much this is moving around, I know that she's just holding it. I'm assuming it's a she because of the nails. Apologise if it's not. But you can see how much... Yeah, she's just holding it, so there's a lot of movement around. It would need a lot of ability to stay rigid when you push it. So it's going to need quite a big... Quite like a new baseboard, quite a large baseboard to make sure there's no rocking at all. But anyway, yes, lots to do. Yes, a lot to catch up. Just watch it back at 2 times speed, I think. But thank you all. I appreciate all of your help and input. I wasn't going to go the clampy thing, but you talked me into it, so thank you. And yeah, I will catch you all next week on the live stream. I've got a part 2 of my Matrix, my new RGB Matrix thing coming out tomorrow, Friday. Yeah, tomorrow morning. So check that out. It's only a part 2, so you know. There might be more parts. Anyway, thanks. Catch you all later. Have a good sleep. Good day, everyone. What needs holes on the baseboard for clamping? No, I'd clamp it on the top. I don't want one that's on the bottom. It needs to be clamped level, flush, like these ones. It needs to be. I need one that's the same height. Sorry, I know I'm going. I need one like this that does it on the same height. I don't want one that clamps on the bottom and that's high up top. Sorry, I said like this one. I need one like this. It's got to be flush. Yep. Okay, anyway. Bye. Catch you later.